Hey guys, I don't do a lot of videos here on my local channel, my personal channel, but I'm gonna do one here, and I'm gonna try to make this as pleasant as I can. But I'm probably gonna get pretty heated, so I'm gonna tell you now: if you don't like the fact that people get super passionate, or you don't want to hear somebody talk about why these kids being marched in front of cameras are full of shit, you might want to turn this video off now because it's probably gonna go there. I am beyond sick of this debate. So let me explain real fast before I get into what I'm going to get into, because I'm going to talk about the legal, constitutional, and moral underpinnings of why this gun control debate, first off, has no business in the hands of 16-year-old kids. But second, why it has no business being so public, and why it has no business being a debate in the first freaking place. So first off, let me go ahead and explain how I feel about these kids, okay? So you guys get a grip on how I feel. These kids are tools. They don't even know it. Most Americans don't know it. They don't have a fucking clue. They're so full of themselves that they really honestly believe that they're trying to change the world. But what they don't see is they have a bunch of adults running around behind them, cheering them on and paying them money and sorting out TV interviews for them to espouse talking points that they have absolutely no fucking clue what they're talking about. Okay. The next time I hear David Hogg or Cameron Caspery or any of those guys talk about how gun control works, I'm going to slap the shit out of them. I'm not even going to get into the statistics, but just justified to say that Chicago has the toughest gun control laws in the country and also has the highest murder rate in the country. So justify that bullshit somewhere else because it doesn't work. I know that from a crime statistic standpoint, gun control does not work. Our good friend here, Thomas Aquinas, absolutely understood that. And I think that the truth of the matter is that the essay on crime and punishment clearly understood that. Laws that forbid the carrying of arms disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides, and for unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed one. If you don't understand that moral underpinning, then you just are not going to get this video. That's the bottom fucking line. So real quick, guys, there is a very strong moral underpinning to why gun control is bullshit and what these people are doing is bullshit. Okay. First and foremost, guys, I'm going to start with the idea that you have a right to defend yourself with violence, regardless of how that violence looks. Thomas Aquinas said that quote right there. And I promise you guys, if you read Thomas Aquinas, you'll understand Thomas Aquinas was absolutely a great Christian thinker, but had no problems with the idea that the right of a victim to defend himself subsequent to the right of other people to feel safe. I don't care who you are. I don't care how unsafe you feel around a gun. I have a right to carry a gun, although I don't, and I have reasons why I don't. But I have that right to carry a gun, and it's a God-given right because you do not supersede my right to justifiably supersede my right by saying, well, I'm afraid of your gun. Well, who gives a shit? Is my gun hurting you? No. I'll get into that in a second because that's part of the non-aggression principle. And I'm sick and tired of these people who don't understand the non-aggression principle either. It's not a difficult subject matter. You have every right to defend yourself. In fact, it's a good, Thomas Aquinas, he says it. Thus, it is a good act, which is the right of a victim. Not only do you have a right to defend yourself, it's a justifiable, decent act to defend yourself when you're being hurt. So to say that I should give up my guns as a law-abiding citizen, oh, wait, I don't commit crimes. I never commit crimes. The last time they tried to pin a crime on me, the fucking prosecutor and the IA detective and the damn VA department hospital laughed at the cop for trying to charge me with it. So yeah, I don't commit crimes. If I do, although there's a theory that you commit 3 felonies a day, but I won't get in that theory. It's because there's so many laws, it's just too easy to break the law. And that's kind of what happened to me with that cop. I was carrying a pocket knife, didn't realize it was illegal on VA property, and had I probably wouldn't have carried it in. It was totally done on accident and completely not thinking about it. That's not committing a crime to me. That's incidentally not realizing that something is against the law. There's a lot of difference between breaking the law knowingly and with a mens rea and committing a crime sheerly by ignorance. That's neither here nor there. Guys, the last part of this that pisses me off is that this is a necessity thing, guys. They claim necessity. We need to take away their rights. Bullshit. William Pitt, House of Commons, 1783. This is during the argument for the Bill of Rights, just so you know. Okay. So, during the debate for the Constitution. This is during our debate for the Constitution. Okay. I screwed our dates up. I'm thinking 1793, not 1783. Apologize. But during the debate over the Constitution in the House of Commons, okay, and the Declaration of Independence and everything else that had happened in the last 7 or 8 years, because 1776, the Declaration of Independence is sent to King George. We officially declare independence from Britain, and we go to war. In 1783, we begin debating the Articles of Confederation and whether or not they're good enough as a form of government. And we begin early debate over how our government will form. A lot of people don't know this, but William Pitt made the statement, necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom, is the argument of tyrants, is the creed of slaves. You make the argument that you need to take away my rights because you're a tyrant. You don't need to take away somebody's Second Amendment rights. You want to. And let me make something further clear. It was Hitler who said, if you want a supine and absolutely passive citizenry, you disarm them. The guy that gassed 12 million Jews and untold numbers of homosexuals, gypsies, and other people is the person that was most affiliated with the idea that we should disarm people. And he wasn't even coy about it. He was blunt about it. I'm disarming you so I can make you compliant. Because when the government's the only people with the guns, they can make you do anything. Which leads me to another point. Ayn Rand. Don't care for Ayn Rand a whole lot. Great libertarian thinker at times. She was also a little batshit. She was not all there. She definitely says some things that bother the crap out of me. But let me tell you something. She's right here. A government is the most dangerous threat to man's rights. It holds a legal monopoly on the use of physical force against legally disarmed victims. Who do you think is going to have all the guns in order to disarm American citizens? Do these 16-year-old kids who know abso-fucking-lutely nothing about gun rights and the debate about balancing proper rights and balancing liberty understand that it's the cops and the military, they're going to have the guns to come disarm you? And if they have the power to disarm the citizenry, they have the right to round you up and put you in camps. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, so please do not take that the wrong way. But I am telling you people right now, these kids do not understand. That statement by Ayn Rand absolutely encapsulates why they don't understand what they're talking about. Guys, so that's the basic philosophical argument behind why they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Necessity. The necessity is still people's rights. And handing that power to a government that then holds the only monopoly on using force against disarmed people is dangerous. Okay? So further into that, we got to get into the concept of what our rights actually are. Okay, we have a constitution. We have a unique constitution in the world. We legitimately do. We are the only country in the world that uses what's called a constitution of negative liberty. Okay, we have no positive liberties in our constitution. None. So if you don't know the difference between negative freedom, negative liberty, and positive liberty, there's a good description of up there on the screen. It basically means freedom from interference, but what it is what is the area within which the subject, a person or group of persons, is or should be left to do with or be what is able to do or be without interference by other persons. So negative freedom quite literally means that it is a set of freedoms that you possess that no man can interfere with or take away. You do not lose those rights no matter what the government says. That's a negative liberty. Our entire constitutional structure is built on negative freedoms. We are free to speak our minds. We are free to own guns. We are free from unlawful search and seizure. We are free from housing soldiers against our will. We are free from incriminating ourselves. We have a right to due process. We have a right to a trial by jury of our peers. Okay? All those rights are negative. None of them grant the government the right to do anything to us. They in fact, that's the opposite of what they do. If you actually read our Constitution, go back and read our Bill of Rights, Our Bill of Rights and our Constitution expressly declares that we have rights that the government has no right to infringe. And in fact, go read the Second Amendment, which is where this whole debate surrounds. And it specifically says this right shall not be infringed. That is not a hard concept to understand. No government can infringe on my right to own a firearm. No government can infringe on my right to defend myself. And furthermore, it was so well understood by the founders and the men who wrote that, not women, the men who wrote that, Madison and Jefferson, that they would later go on to argue after the passage of the Bill of Rights that not only was it every man's right to own a gun and right to defend himself, it was his duty to remain armed so that if tyranny were to ever hit the shores of America, they could properly overthrow the government that institutes tyranny. I really don't get what's so hard about that. I don't. You can do all this research yourself, guys. You can go read their quotes. You can read their writings. These people were not stupid men. This is another misnomer by the left, by these anti-gun psychopaths that are pulling the strings of these kids. They misinterpret something that they don't really understand themselves because they're not legal experts. They have no constitutional training. If you really want an explanation on how far protection for gun rights goes, go read the Heller decision. Yes, it was a 5-4 decision. It was a narrow decision, but those 5 justices made it abundantly clear in that decision that the government will never retain a right to take away somebody's right to self-defense, ever. If we don't like it, we can suck it. I mean, that's basically what they told us. I really just don't know how else to say that. We have a laundry list of problems in this country, and it's really getting to the point now where we don't understand them. We don't understand them. So, guys, I mentioned a second ago something about called the non-aggression principle. If you're not familiar with the non-aggression principle, Rand Paul gets it really, really right here. The non-aggression principle, if you're not committing aggression against another individual, it's really your business what you're doing. It's not hard. It's the same reason that even though I personally don't believe in gay marriage, I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. If you want to be gay and call yourself married, that's your business. My personal opinion on marriage is the state has no vested interest in it. And that's why I believe the non-aggression principle applies to it. It's a weird dichotomy thing. I've had a lot of arguments over this. So believe me, I've gone through this tooth and claw with people. So guys, that's just another good example. So basically what these kids are arguing is I have a right to be safe, and therefore I have the right to trample your rights even if you're doing nothing wrong. No, you don't. You are violating one of the most basic tenets of the philosophical argument of non-aggression. Non-aggression is easy enough to understand. What they're doing is advocating mutually assured destruction. Because what do they think is going to happen if they get their way and they get people's guns away from them, but those people that they just screwed over get control of the levers of power? Do you really think that those people are going to sit on their hands and they're going to sit there and smile at you and wave and tell you how great you are? No, they're going to steal your rights away from you, because whether we like this or not, man is petty and vindictive. That's how we are. It was in 8 years of Obama's administration, conservatives, and I mean conservatives, I don't mean GOP rhino members like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. I'm talking conservatives, Rand Paul, Ben Sasse, Mike Lee, all those guys, Ted Cruz. They all said the same thing. All of you people sitting there cheering in the media, cheering Obama, breaking the law and using the levers of power against his enemies are going to regret it if a Republican wins in 2016. What is happening right now? Trump is using the same exact levers of power, and he is abusing the piss out of them. And he is absolutely, they are screaming at the top of their lungs about how wrong it is. They lost the right to do that when they refused to stand up for the rights of people they disagreed with. I don't care how much you disagree with me on gun rights. I have a right to a gun. You do not have a right to come into my home and take my property from me without due process of law, without a trial by a jury of my peers, and you most certainly do not have the right to come into my home and take my property without me performing some type of aggression or act that requires me to give up those rights. There is nothing complicated about that concept. Nothing. Guys, it's simple. You lose these people do not know what they're talking about. This means well-regulated militia. You do realize that the term well-regulated in that context literally means not regulated by the Congress. It literally means runs well or is functional. That's all it means. And if you, well, it says militia, and you know who the militia was when the Constitution was written, the Bill of Rights was written? Every able-bodied man between probably about, the question remains earliest. They know the latest around 40, but between about 13 and 15 and 40, every able-bodied man was considered a part of the militia. And by the way, if you want to know why they were considered part of the militia, the War of 1812 settled that. A little bit of history for you. They were considered part of the militia to overthrow a tyrannical government, but thank God we had a well-armed citizenry because they were able to call them up to duty when the British invaded in the War of 1812. Thank God. Under these pansy, soy boy, wannabe, gun-grabbing psychopaths' interpretation of our constitutional order, we would have nobody to defend us today if our military were to collapse or our president were to actually turn into a tyrant. We would have nobody left to defend us. So let's put our big boy pants on. Let's put our big girl pants on. Let's stop acting like we're geniuses, that we understand the intricacies of a very complex, very detailed, very nuanced debate that's been boiled down to sound bites by 15, 16, 17-year-old kids who they can't even name the 3 branches of government, for God's sake. They just did a study on that, and I shit you not, out of college freshmen, only I think it was 40-something% of college freshmen could name 3 branches of the government. I forgot. I mean, it got worse. I mean, you can look this study, but I'd have to pull the information for you if I wanted to. I could probably find it again, but the study was awful. Only like 39% or something. It was obscenely low. Knew who the vice president under Obama was. Almost nobody knew who the Speaker of the House was. Almost nobody could name a Supreme Court justice. And these are the people that are standing up in Washington, D.C. screaming about taking away your rights. And by the way, if you think this is going to stop with your right to own a gun, you're insane. Because if we give up our right to own firearms, our right to defend ourselves, they will come for other rights. Best said by that poem, and I can't think of the German guy's name. They came for the communists. I didn't care because I wasn't a communist. They came for the labor unionist. I didn't care because I wasn't a labor unionist. And it gets all the way down through and says, but when they came for me, I had no one left to speak for me. And make no mistake, that is where we will be if you stand on the side of people who want to take away other people's rights for no other reason than they don't understand the nuance of the debate. They do not understand the complexity of the issue. I am an incredibly passionate person about civil liberties. And this is really getting on my nerves. Guys, if you want to know about how to balance rights, the Supreme Court a long time ago said in a ruling, God, I wish I could remember the court case. I have a hard time pulling up all the court cases I've read because my mind is like a trap, but I also have a lot of stuff filtering through there right now. Mostly politics. But guys, they said a long time ago that in the practice of balancing rights, it is always best to balance rights towards the largest and broadest group of people available. That's how you balance rights. End of story. So just so you know, there's roughly 300 million guns in America. Give or take. I'd have to pull that exact number up again. I know Dana Lash has put it out there a couple of times, and there's a couple other people that have put it out there. Guys, we could put that information out there for you. I encourage you to do your own research. You're roughly about a gun per person in the United States. Which means that there's roughly, I want to say there's like 150 or 170 million gun owners in America. So roughly half of Americans own firearms. Give or take. So we're about 320 million people. So I think it's right around half. It's like 40. It's like I want to say like 48% or something of people in America own a gun or have owned a gun at one point. Guys, you don't get it. You don't get it. 48% of Americans own guns. You know what percentage of those people have committed crimes? Probably about 3%. I mean, for God's sake, the majority of gun violence in the United States is suicides. But nobody will talk about that. We won't talk about that. We'll talk about how, well, this psycho kid, who, by the way, I'm getting like bench bro, I'm not going to say his name. This psycho kid went in and shot 17 people. Where is the vitriol for him? Where's the vitriol for Scott Israel, who had 80 or 40 something calls, I'm sorry, 40 something calls about this kid and did nothing? Where's the vitriol for the FBI, who received at least 3 reports that this kid was a danger to himself or other? By the way, we found out that he was reported to CPS as a threat to himself, and they did nothing. Where is the hate and the anger directed at people who had the opportunity to prevent this type of violence and did nothing? Because the quote is, all it takes for evil to take hold is for men of good conscience to do nothing. And that is exactly what our government did while this kid was plotting to kill classmates. And and this isn't like something that happened overnight, people. 40-something calls since 2010. In 8 years, they received 40-something calls. That's 5 calls a year. 5 plus, actually. Because it was like 48 calls. So it winds up being, 6 calls a year. 6 calls a year. That's 1 call every other month. If you believe anyone else in this country would stay out of jail or out of a mental hospital if they had the cops called on them once every other month for 8 years, you are insane. You need to be checked out. There are a lot of things in play in this case and in this situation that people do not understand and that people do not want to face. Like the fact that this entire situation was orchestrated by an Obama-era policy to stop referring minority students to police for non-essential crime. Oh, threatening to shoot up the school is perfectly fine. We won't refer him to the police for prosecution or possible hospitalization under the Baker Act. Because he's a Hispanic. What's that got to do with the price of tea in China? He was clearly unhinged. And by the way, just so you guys know, this kid had a lot that happened to him in his very short life. I'm going to tell you right now, he ain't going to escape getting executed. They're going to kill him. They refused. He's already offered to plead guilty to take the death penalty off the case, and the state of Florida told him to go fuck himself. So they're aiming to strap him to a gurney by the time he's 22, 23. They have no illusions that they want this kid out of society. And you know what the bad part of that is? Is that the whole thing was preventable. The whole thing was preventable. And you know what? Instead of screaming about how I have blood on my hands because I believe in the Second Amendment, maybe you should do some soul searching and blame the people who actually failed you. And actually make real voices for change by, I don't know, strengthening the Baker Act, pushing for Betsy DeVos, no matter how much you like or dislike the woman, to do away with this Obama-era clusterfuck that allows minority students to get away with crime. How about we prosecute Scott Israel? And I'm going to tell you right now, I personally think every last family, once they've processed this crime, needs to straight up, unadulteratedly file a wrongful death suit against the FBI and against Scott Israel. Because both of them failed to, and CPS, all 3 of them actually. Because you know what? They all 3 failed to act when it was clear that this kid was a threat. Because they didn't want to offend minorities. They wanted to play a politically correct game. And it cost 17 people their lives. But by all means, continue, if you're one of those gun-grabbing leftists, continue telling me how I have to give up my rights because David Hogg doesn't feel safe at school. Well, let me tell you something. David Hogg wasn't even in the same freaking building. The only danger he was in was the fact that Oh my God, somebody came in my school. Let me tell you something. That little arrogant fuck. Let me tell you something. That high school football coach that put his body between him, the shooter, and other people, that guy is a hero. That guy understood self-sacrificing. He understood what it meant to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of other people. People like David Hogg and Cameron Caspi and Emma Gonzalez, those people are worthless. Those kids are about to get hit in the face with a baseball bat of reality. And it's going to be ugly when it happens. You know why? Because they want to be in the limelight and they do not understand the debate that they have entered. Nor do they care. Because the media and their parents and other adults around them will not hold them responsible for the lies, the misinformation, and the vile, disgusting attacks that they continue to launch on millions of law-abiding citizens. Not to count the horribly disgusting things that they say about sitting U.S. senators. I don't agree with Marco Rubio a lot. I personally think he's a rhino. I don't think he's really conservative. I think he is very moderate. I think he's barely right of center. But you know what? I don't think that you have the right to make fun of him and put signs up at a march with blood across his forehead and the sign of the Ash Cross accusing him of being a baby murderer. If you can't accept that these people do not understand the debate they're having, you are missing the forest for the trees. Those kids are a problem. And it is time for us as Americans and us as people, fuck Americans, as people, to realize that we do not deserve to be treated this way. Which is even more ironic when you think about a dumbass girl that decided to tweet, I can't believe they're taking away all the rights of the 3,000 students in our school because of one person. You mean like you do for 150 million gun owners? You stupid cunt. Do you not see the irony in your own stupid statement? Do you not see the immorality in demanding that I kowtow to your inexperience, your ill information, and your absolute slander in order to give up my rights, but then you demand that I let you do whatever you want? Yeah, let me tell you something right now. There's a short pier not far from here you can take a walk off of. If you really believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Told you guys, I'm very pissed off about this. This debate should be over. These kids need to be put to pasture, and at best, put to pasture, at worst, proverbially put out of their misery. Because all they're going to do is 6 months from now, and by the way, if you guys for any split second think that this isn't going to go away once the primary season is over for elections, and we're rolling up to the general elections in November for the midterms and stuff, these kids are going to go away. Because the candidates aren't going to have time for them because there's real issues that they're dealing with. No matter how much we like or dislike it. Get over it. These kids are getting ready to get hit with on the train tracks of life, and somebody needs to do them a favor and try to shove them out of the way of the speeding train. Or better yet, maybe they should let them stand on the tracks, because it sounds like what they really need is a good foot pushed up their ass and broken off. Because none of them understand what they're talking about. They're disrespectful. They're toe rags. God help me. I honestly do not know how their parents can go to bed, lay their heads on their pillows at night and think, wow, I raised a wonderful, productive member of society. No, you raised a self-centered, worthless human being who's done nothing but damage and harm the people around them. And demands that their way be the highway or else. And when it's not, they throw their little hissy fits, they stomp their feet and pound their hands on the desk and scream about how we don't understand what they're talking about. No, I understand exactly what they're talking about. The difference is I also understand both the constitutional, philosophical, moral underpinnings of the reason we have a right to defend ourselves in the freaking first place. I also understand that there's a fine wire, high wire act that goes into understanding how you have to balance the rights of these kids who are victims of a crime with the rights of the rest of the people who didn't do anything wrong. Like I said, guys, necessity is the plea for the infringement of human freedom. It's the argument of tyrants. It's the creed of slaves. You do not need to take away another person's rights. Ever. Full stop. End of discussion. Anyways, guys, I feel a lot better now that I kind of ranted that out, because I really have no patience for this crap anymore, guys. I really don't. I am fed up. I'm fed up with seeing these kids go on news stations. I'm fed up with Americans talking about how smart. Well, that kid's so smart. No, he's a dumbass. Every last one of them are. You know what they really need? What we really need? We need to take these kids, and I tell you what we need to do with all these dumbass kids at this March for Life, which wasn't a March for Life. It was a march for fucking stealing away other people's constitutional rights. Let's call it what it really was. Let's call shit what it is. Take those kids, and they need to be put in a basic civics course that teaches them the basic understanding of how rights are formed, how rights interact with each other, and furthermore, how they do not gain some moral authority and moral right to demand that other people give up their rights to make those people happy. I don't care who they are. And by the way, if you wonder why I'm attacking kids, it's because they stopped being kids the moment they walked into an adult debate and started demanding to be treated like adults. You want to be treated like an adult? I will gladly treat you like an adult. So let's just get it through your thick skulls. You are not a special snowflake. Okay? You're not. You are a cog in an indifferent world. You are a cog in a pluralistic society full of people with different views on everything from guns to how much you should smoke to what kind of food you should eat. And it is time that we stop giving special credence to people who are nothing more than sock puppets for idiotic leftists. And yes, they are leftists, like Michael Bloomberg and Every Town for Gun Violence. They're idiots, by the way. Any group that uses, any group that can get called out by the Washington Post for falsifying stats is not a good group to trust. Sorry. Anyways, guys, it does feel better. It's cathartic just to let out my frustration. It really is. I said, guys, do your own research, man. Do your own research on the moral underpinnings of why people like these kids are absolute, they're devastating to the reality of liberty. I mean, if our founders were to come out of their holy graves today, I'm pretty sure they'd be on like a witch hunt with torches, pitchforks, and lynch rope, because people would die. Because I'm going to tell you that, or they would start arming people and rallying them up for the impending revolution they were going to start. Because those are the two options I can imagine them doing with the state of our government and the state of our discourse today. Wannabe tyrants have no business trying to control the discourse. And I'm going to tell you something else. Children have no business controlling discourse. These are people who can't even vote, for God's sake. And 2 months ago, they were eating Tide Pods. What the fuck are we listening to them for? Why don't we try listening to more level heads? I'm not even going to tell you to listen to Kyle Kushov, who is in the same boat. He's 17 years old. I think he's more moderate. I think he's definitely more level-headed. But I don't think you listen just to him. I think he's repeating a lot of the same things, though, that a lot of the parents of the victims are saying, and the families of these victims are saying. So I think that he may be on the right track. I don't think he's there yet, but I think he's on the right track. I think he's the, out of all the kids I've heard speak about this bullshit, he is definitely the only kid I think that's going to make it in life, because he's the only one that has his head screwed on right and sees the bigger picture. Don't listen to kids. Don't listen to people who have no skin in the game, and definitely don't listen to people who don't know what they're talking about. Do your own research, do your own reading. Don't read CNN. Don't watch the news. Don't listen to people who tell you what you should think. Like I said, go read your founders. Go read our Constitution. Go read what a negative liberty is. Go read how far extreme sociopathic dictators viewed gun control. And then come back to tell me that these kids are not, that I'm not going to say that David Hogg's a Nazi, but let me tell you something. Because I don't think he's a Nazi. I think he's an idiot. But let me tell you something. The things he said yesterday in that weirdo communist speech he gave, they don't sound much different than a rally speech for Hitler Youth. They don't. They really don't. It's scary. You don't believe me on that? Go read William Schreier's Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. That's my response to that. Guy's a nut job. Kid's an idiot. Has no brains. I don't think he would be able to find his ass with both hands. I think he has to have his parents tell him how to put his pants on properly. So I no more believe that speech yesterday was his original thoughts than the Man in the Moon. I think Michael Bloomberg wrote it for him. I think he's dumb. I think this whole situation is off the rails. I really do. Anyways, guys, you've heard me rant long enough, so fuck it. Like I said, cathartic. Hopefully, with that out of the way, I can kind of move past all this shit because I really am getting tired of it. I really am. If you can't tell how frustrated it's making me, I legitimately can't. I don't know that I can help you see how frustrated it's making me. Anyways, guys, take it easy.